Sorry, Nick. 6 o'clock. We'll call our June 10th meeting to order, and we'll begin with roll call, please.
Sarchet.
Here.
Savage.
Here.
Walters.
Here.
Vogel. Here. Otis.
Here.
Approval of the agenda, a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
And roll call.
Savage.
Here.
Walters.
Yes.
Vogel. Yes. Otis.
Yes.
Sarchet.
Item number 4 is the presentation from Renaissance Group, campaign strategy report.
Good evening. Josh Faber with Renaissance Group. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. We were here a few weeks ago and provided an interim report, and I submitted a complete strategy report in writing. I just want to run through a few of the high points with you this evening and certainly make sure we have time for any questions. First, I should acknowledge Council, the Parks Commission, Friends of the Parks, a number of our hosts. This has been an effort of a lot of people over the last several months, and certainly want to thank both Chelsea and Jason for their hard work as they implemented the pre-campaign process and allowed us to continue to work alongside them. In the end, we conducted 35 confidential interviews with prospective donors and voters to the project, asking them a series of 7 questions. Many of you were interviewed, so you know that it was more of a discussion than a call and response, but we certainly appreciate the support. As you go through the report and read through it, if you see a quote, it's a direct quote, and it's representative of something that we heard multiple times. If we had one person that said, I don't know, what you really need to do out there is just build a giant lazy all the way around 50 centimeters, you're probably not going to see that. If we heard that from 5 people, we're going to put it in there, whether it's true or not, whether it's a good idea or not. We're just trying to reflect what we've heard in that process. More than 97% of those that we interviewed believe that there was a compelling need for Polk City to develop a regional park, and 85% of interviewees affirmed the direction of the plans. Certainly there are some comments in there about the plans, specifically related to safety issues that people had. And those are things that need to be addressed, but it's not uncommon in the schematic design of a project that some of that will flush itself out as we move forward into engineered drawings. 60% of the audience that we interviewed believed that the timing of conducting a major fundraising campaign and a corresponding bond referendum in the next 6 to 12 months, this was a good time to be doing that. That's on par with what we typically see in successful projects. And we found in the interviews that 66% of those that we talked to said that the fundraising total as proposed just seemed really unrealistic. As you know, Polk City is, by population, a little over 6,000 people. We see communities of 6,000 people be able to support those types of numbers with some regularity now throughout the state of Iowa. The thing that's so different, of course, about Polk City is that we have so many houses and so many residents, and we don't have a huge business community. So much of that business is done either in Ankeny or in Grimes or most likely in Des Moines. Whereas a standalone community of 6,000 in southeast Iowa would probably be the largest city in that county. And so with that, we also see a corresponding number of campaign gifts that are going to be just quite a bit smaller. In the end, we recommend moving forward with a $1 million fundraising goal and a bond to not exceed $10 million. 60% of the interviewees that we visited with believe that the bond referendum will pass. We believe that is indicative of what we typically find on successful projects. And as such, we believe that the city would be moving forward with certainly a tremendous effort that's going to be required to pass that, but you'd be acting responsibly and putting that out to the voters as soon as this November. 83% of those that we interviewed intend to make a gift in support of the campaign. And that's pretty resounding. That's actually pretty high. And we are very encouraged by that. We just know that we didn't identify those gifts at the top end of the range that are necessary to support that $6 million proposed goal. As you can imagine, it takes a tremendous number of $500,000 gifts to offset one multi-million-dollar gift. And we simply don't have the population with which to be able to do that. 14 of the individuals that we visited with indicated a willingness to assist in implementing both the bond referendum passage campaign and the fundraising campaign. This is appropriate and adequate, that we believe that we'll be able to staff this with both volunteers and through Friends of the Parks. Our recommendations, we recommend that Friends of the Parks move forward as the fundraising entity and establish a fundraising goal of $1 million in cash and in-kind gifts in support of the project. We further recommend that the city work with the design team to incorporate the feedback from the community that's been garnered through this process and to adjust the budget to a total project budget of $10 million from a bond, $1 million from fundraising, and then whatever the city's going to make as an investment beyond that from cash on hand or other revenue streams that the city has. We also suggest sending a executive summary, a one-page executive summary that we're happy to provide to everyone who participated in this process, along with probably a letter from Jason that just thanks people for their involvement and lets them see what came of their hard work and their involvement in this so that they understand at least the high points of what we're recommending. And then we move into defining staff and volunteer roles as we move into campaign implementation on the fundraising side. And finally, we wrap up with a phased campaign that you can take a look at, and if you have any questions, certainly ask them. That's the high points. What questions do you have for me?
So Jason, I know one of my questions I have, or one of my concerns, is what we were presenting to people was obviously a roughly $16 million park.
That's right.
So now if we are looking to what we can more reasonably afford, which is not good at math, but 60%, 70% of what we were pitching to sell, does that skew a lot of the data that we collected?
How much support are we going to lose from people that were on the fringes?
So I guess that my
I
concern
appreciate the question.
is that we were trying to sell this, we realized it's not this, so I guess I'm looking for your subject matter expertise. How would that skew going
We've
back?
taken that into account in recommending these numbers. We do think there's a skew, and it's part of our algorithm, and we include that in the math here. We believe that, had there been enough support to support a larger project, we certainly wouldn't have had to make that adjustment, but we have made that adjustment and accounted for that in these numbers.
So when you had interviews and questioned people, were you asking, would people be happy with smaller, less fields and things like that? Were those questions?
Yeah, some of the questions that we would ask, there's a whole series of questions that are around the plans specifically. We ask people, what of this plan is really exciting to you? What of this plan, if anything, seems superfluous? Where would you make adjustments if in fact, adjustments had to be made? Those kinds of questions are pretty common follow-up questions, Jeff, and they're asked as part of that. We've included the relevant quotes for you in that as well, just so you can kind of see where that feedback came in. I think, the one piece of the project that I'm not sure how we make the math work on this at this point, because we need to get the design team to affect the changes on this and make sure that we're doing the best that we can to meet the needs of all residents. But the light issue was certainly one that came up repeatedly, that people would really like to see at least some portion of this facility lit on the fields so that some nighttime activities could happen beyond sunset. Again, certainly you're adding expense at that point, but I think that's the kind of example that we could see where we could probably value engineer some things back into the project as we maybe pull out some other things. But again, that's going to have to be confluenced that helps us to understand what's possible on that site with the budget.
Yeah, hard for me to understand how we could put lights back in when we already removed lights to get the budget lower, right?
You'd have to cut something else, obviously.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong though, Jason, every time that we talked about this, again, before we engaged Renaissance Group, this was a phased roll. So the cadence, I don't know that we ever got into how long that phased approach was, but it was never out of the gate, this is everything you're going to get.
So the original master plan showed a phased approach. Council at that time, I think you had asked us to see what a one-shot would cost, and that 16 million was
Everything.
everything.
Okay.
Yeah, so I certainly think there is the possibility of exploring phasing in that.
Because Mike, and how far back was that $16 million cost estimate?
Oh, boy, that was.
Well, it was updated in January of this year.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's this year's numbers.
Projected for construction in 25.
Okay.
We did have them at an inflation factor too.
Okay.
I think the 16 million that I'm referring to though was pre-Renaissance Group. I want to say if we got the master plan in fall of 21, we probably had that diet done in spring of 22.
But nonetheless, $10 million bond vote, $1 city commitment, and a $1 million donation. It's 12. I mean, that's 75% of the original. And if it was current dollars, that part doesn't concern me. I think we do need to be realistic about what that means when. I think that's something that's not always clear with bond votes, especially around here, is votes here, construction would start thereafter, opening game or use or whatever targeted for whatever, and this is what it all includes. I mean, it's a good question, but
When you say that Friends of the Parks would carry the water on this, so to speak, in terms of doing the most work, have you had lengthy conversations with them? Or are they aware that you're saying this, or what?
So what we're recommending, we're not suggesting that they're going to carry the water and be the entity that goes out and does all that work. We're going to have to recruit a committee just for this purpose. We do think it makes sense to run the fundraising under the umbrella of Friends of the Parks. Certainly people can write checks and make donations to a municipality. People don't really like to do that. They'd much prefer to give that to a third-party 501c3 organization. So our only recommendation with Friends of the Parks is that we run the campaign under the umbrella of that nonprofit organization, and that we'll have to recruit a team specifically for this. That includes some of the Friends of the Parks members who have been interviewed and said they'd be willing to help with that. But certainly I wouldn't want to volunteer the entire group.
Is there any reason why you didn't do a survey?
So the focus on this is always on that leadership piece and trying to understand where we are with potential major donors on the fundraising side of the coin. And we found over the course of time that we're able to prognosticate based on that data effectively to the community as a whole and extrapolate those findings to the whole. Somebody else might do a survey. We've just done it this way, and this is the methodology that's worked for us.
so thank you again. When I came on the council, it was just as the last bond issue was coming, and I was a resident for the one prior. So I could say, sort of with some boots on the ground, those first time around, we didn't have anything like this. I don't think there's anything wrong with the approach from either of those times. It was what small towns do. I think recognizing our track record and the work that you did and the statistically valid model that you had, I think gives us a leg up where we can more confidently go to folks because you verified what I think we all knew, that the need is there and the willingness to participate is there. So I think this is a significant handoff to our to our side of the coin now with a lot better information than we've ever had, and this is gonna be a referendum on, is there the trust out there for us to make this action? And so with that in mind, knowing where we've been and knowing that you are also involved going forward in other communities, has there, and I know we've got rules and Chelsea's probably turning over now because she hasn't gone over this on how we can sell this or how we're not allowed to sell this, but have you seen communities that will do a commitment to hold taxes steady or in some way incorporate this into our capital improvement plan as we move ahead. Because my concern is that we've made a lot of recent investments, borrowed some money to then take the step and do it through other means, which is appropriate in this case, to do a referendum. I think we need to demonstrate that this fits in with some sort of plan, and people can have that information as they go. So, roundabout way to finally get to the question: in the communities you've been involved with, has that type of commitment, one, happened, and two, been beneficial?
Well, I think all of us appreciate when our tax dollars, when they're well stewarded. And anytime that we've been able to pass a bond referendum to extend an existing tax, whether that be a local option sales tax, whether that be an existing bond that's coming off the books, those are certainly met with a different level of support because it's effectively static in their household budget. We also see that as property values have increased substantially over the last few years, that even if the rate goes down, sometimes that tax bill continues to go up thanks to the appreciation of real estate. I'd say that there's a lot of different ways to skin that. I'd certainly be open to having that conversation, but I'd want to have Chelsea and Jason and myself be able to sit down and kind of work through that and try to understand where we're at with the existing levy and see what else is on the horizon. Certainly, some of this in CIP is pretty typical, especially in a phased approach, that you would see maybe a large investment on the front end and then the plan to finish things out be affected through CIP. That's a pretty common mechanism when we're a little bit short of where we want to be, because that's a little bit easier to take on, and we can put the infrastructure in place during the major investment. I mean, what is it, Jason? 2/3 of this is a big civil package, something like that. I mean, this is a huge dirt project. Not to suggest that the other things don't have expense, but I think it's like 10 or 11 million of the project is a civil package, and so those things are going to need to happen. And if those things then can be built on top of that through CIP, that's a pretty common mechanism as well.
Okay. But again, I do want to make sure properly thanked.
No.
This is the culmination of a trajectory that we've been on for year and a half now, pace that we've been on that long. So thank you for a lot of good information that we've not had.
We're happy to help, and we look forward to the opportunity to continue to work with staff and with volunteers on the project as we move into the fall. If you have other questions that come up after the meeting, please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly or through Jason or Chelsea.
Well, so before you go, does anybody have any other questions on Josh? Yes, no? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
This is the item number 5. This is the time and place for comments for any item other than those that are a public hearing. Have we had anybody fill out comment cards?
No, sir.
Anybody in the audience who didn't fill out a comment card want to speak during the public comment period? All right, we'll move on to item number 6 then, which is consent items, and I'll ask for a motion and a second, please.
Second.
And roll call.
Vogel?
Yes.
Otis?
Yes.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Savage?
Yes.
Walters?
Yes.
Item 7, business items. A, third reading of ordinance 2024-700 approving rezoning 36.58 acres located at 1716 East Northside Drive to be known as Sunrise Ridge Plat 1 from R1 to R1A. I'll have a motion and a second, please.
Second.
Roll call.
Vogel? Yes. Otis?
Yes.
Sarchet?
No.
Savage?
Yes.
Walters?
Yes.
Moving on to B then, third reading of ordinance 2024-800 approving rezoning 7.62 acres located at 609 East Northside Drive to be known as Big Creek Commons Plat 2 from R1 to R1A. Motion, please.
Second.
And roll call.
Savage?
Yes.
Walters?
Yes.
Vogel? Yes. Otis?
Yes.
Sarchet?
Item C, Antler Ridge, number 1, third reading of ordinance 2024-900, approving rezoning for Antler Ridge, 2.017 acres from R2 to R1, 0.116 acres from R2A to C2, and 50.144 acres from R1, R2, and R2 to R1, R2A, and R2 to R1A. Motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Walters?
Yes.
Vogel?
Yes.
Otis?
No.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Savage?
Yes.
Item number 2, resolution 2024-75, approving preliminary plat. Motion and a second.
Second.
Roll call.
Vogel?
Yes.
Otis?
No.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Savage?
Yes.
Walters?
Yes.
Item D, third reading of ordinance 2024-1000, approving R2A zoning district modifications. Motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Vogel?
Yes.
Otis?
Yes.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Savage?
Yes.
Walters?
Yes.
Item E, third reading of ordinance 2024-1100, amending chapter 92 water rates. A motion and a second, please.
Second.
Roll call.
Vogel?
Yes.
Otis?
Yes.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Savage?
Yes.
Walters?
Yes.
Item F, third reading of ordinance 2024-1200, amending chapter 99 sewer rates. Motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Savage?
Yes.
Walters?
Yes.
Vogel?
Yes.
Otis?
Yes.
Sarchet?
Item G, Snyder and Associates, April 2024 engineering services invoicing the amount of $39,663. Motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Otis?
Yes.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Savage?
Yes.
Walters?
Abstain.
Item H, engineering services agreement with Snyder and Associates for the updated High Trestle Trail to Neil Smith Trail Phase 4 and 5 alignment in the amount of $121,000. Travis, report, please.
So for council's, Travis Thornburg, city engineer, 2727 Southwest Snyder Boulevard, Inc. For council's consideration and approval tonight is a contract amendment for professional services to be rendered for the High Trestle Trail and Smith Trail Connect project, phase 4 and 5. This is an engineering services agreement amendment to revise the phase 4 alignment to the new alignment along Second and Bluff, along Broadway, and then adding services to design and build, or to design and administer the construction of the trail through the Crossroads of the Lakes subdivision. This contract amendment would net change the existing contract by $74,500. That is constituted of a reduction from the original professional services in the amount of $10,500, and then the addition of $85,000 in design and construction-based services. The original professional services agreement did not include construction services, so those are a straight add that would have been added time of bidding under the existing contract, and then there's $85,000 or $85,000. Some of that $85,000 is design of the new alignment. Also included in this is a credit in the amount of $36,000 for services previously rendered under the existing contract. In essence, if we were to approach this project as a new project, our estimated engineering would have been $120,000. That's what this amendment brings the total to. So you are essentially receiving credit for all services rendered on phase 4 project already. Happy to answer any questions if you have.
And this cost was built into the estimate we previously
Correct.
received.
Yeah, it just wasn't broken out for simplicity's sake.
Thank you, Travis. I'll ask for a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
And roll call.
Savage?
Yes.
Walters?
Abstain.
Vogel?
Yes.
Otis?
Yes.
Sarchet?
All right then, thank you, Travis. Moving on to 8, reports and particulars. Anything from staff? Okay, nothing from the city manager. Council, anything from council?
I got a few things. successful Friday night kickoff event, I thought. Both of you? Yep.
Is there a bet?
Okay.
Who was in the dunk tank is the question. Did you have that there? Unfortunately,
Yes,
we
we
had to miss out.
did.
So was it both of you?
That was busy all night.
Didn't see you.
No, you didn't.
Maybe next year. And another shout out to a cool thing, Jason, so, last Parks meeting, we did a Parks tour, for the Parks Board. And having been liaison before, that was a new experience for me, to ride through the parks with Jason's expertise on, what it should have been, what it could have been, what it might be, and certainly where it is. So enlightening for those on the board, I think, too. So good creative solution and good exercise probably to do. Maybe you've done it already, and I'm just hit to it now that I've
First one I've done.
Okay, well, appreciate you doing that. Last thing, so we had a meeting with MWA. Mike joined, Chelsea joined, and I think progress regarding the brush pile. So message received, at least from my end, and again, wasn't in favor of the change that we went down, but new change needed to be made, and trying to work to a solution that gets us, I don't know if it's closer to where we originally started, but certainly not where we are today. And I think the progress with MWA getting involved with potential collection for some of our brush. So waiting to hear back on numbers, but good conversation and something that will benefit us to some degree down the road, and still leaves us, I think that some of the cost factor can be improved with their involvement. I'll call it security piece of it, making sure we've got the right stuff from the right people at the right time. There is still a problem we're gonna need, but if their indications come through with a bid that they should provide this week, I think we can revisit that progress sooner rather than.
Anyone else? Okay, then. Moving on to item number 9, then, we need a motion to move into closed session and a second.
Second.
And a roll call.
Vogel?
Yes.
Otis?
Yes.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Savage?
Yes.
Walters?
Yes.
All those invited to stay for closed session, please stay. Those not, thank you very much.